Overall thoughts on what you saw today?
It was good work. You know, out in the heat, we're coming off the field about the time we'll be starting in 2 weeks. Got some good live tackling. I thought we tackled well for 2 weeks from the first game. That's something you're always worried about, but I think we tackled pretty well considering. We've had a physical camp. You know, our ones have probably gotten well over 500 team reps, and we haven't had to go live a lot to be physical. We've got your normal bangs and bruises and bumps and all that, but I think we're pretty healthy, and I think our guys they're willing to be physical. And when we have tackled, I've been pleased. So, we're 2 weeks out, and we'll start getting ready.
How much more do you think you'll go live before?
Probably not any. Don't really need to. I mean, you're concerned about the obvious things. I mean, they get to play a full game, so they're going to have tackled a full game, get used to being in game shape, tackling, get the kinks out. So, from that standpoint, but the same thing happened to us last year, I think, and it's about us being ready to play and adjusting to those kind of game one things that just are every year.
A little different format to the scrimmage. What kind of went into the decision to do some of those more situational?
Yeah, just because again, we've been physical enough. We tackled last Saturday. I mean, I still think our 1D probably got 35-40 live reps today. 2D probably got 35-40 live reps today. So that's still more than a half a game probably. So when you take in last week and this week, they've gotten more than over a game's worth of tackling. So I think both sides of the ball just work in certain situations that you may not get to if you just kind of scrimmage the whole time. So it was making sure we got some red zone and goal line and backed up and second and third down stuff, and on top of just playing football.
Throughout camp, you've always talked about, there's room for more improvement, obviously. What did you see today that was different or better than a week ago?
I thought our defense stopped the run better than we did last week. I don't think we gave up that many explosive plays, if any, really. We had a pick six for a touchdown, so I think the defense really made a good stride this past week. I think offensively, you can see, I'm thinking about the ones in particular, when they get rolling with some tempo and can make some contested catches, they're pretty stout too. And thought they did a nice job of finishing with touchdowns in the red zone the few times they were there. So, and then we did a lot of live kicking scenarios too, which will be good for us to coach off of.
How big is, you mentioned kind of seeing that difference from last week to this week, and then build this week to next week, and then obviously all the way to the second?
It's huge. I told them on Monday, I said, this is the most important week maybe of our whole season, because the first week and a half, 10, 14 days, everybody's excited, the season's new, it's fresh. Now you get into this week that's kind of in no man's land, right? I mean, school starts Monday. We got 2 weeks from now we play, so it's easier to start turning your attention to an opponent. But this past week is tough because your body's starting to get sore and tired, and the newness is worn off, and you don't have an opponent right around the corner, and it's easy to just get through it, go through the motions, and not really, lock in and get better. And I thought our guys, for the most part, we didn't have a full lull this week. They really pressed on. We went 5 or 6 days this week, and I think we got some good work in. And so I think that's why I felt like today we were better. We actually had more stuff scripted to do, and I just felt like we were in a good place, and we kind of cut it short.
You mentioned people getting sore and the bumps and bruises that are normal at this time of year. Do you have any updates on injuries?
Yeah, ask me any specific ones, because I don't know of a lot of major ones.
Jordan and Kamar?
Yeah, okay, so Jordan, we're hopeful that by Tuesday, I mean, his strength is back. He's fairly cleared to go. It was kind of more of us. He could do individual. He did some the last 2 days, limited work. But when you put someone in a competitive situation, they're going to burst. And so we kind of made the decision to try to get him to Tuesday next week and get 2 good weeks out of him before game one to try to not have any setbacks. So we're hopeful he'll be out next week. Same with Kamar and the ankle. We've not had any setbacks with those guys.
Any new update on Cam? Saw him out there in the walking boot.
Irvin, yeah, he's on track. I mean, whether or not he's available game one's probably doubtful. It's not been ruled out. But I would say both him and Jaden Jones, I wouldn't expect game one unless something really good happens. But they're both trending well. We don't expect them to be out for a long period of time. Today, I think we came out of it pretty good from an injury standpoint. So I think, considering we've had 15 days and we've been pretty physical, I feel pretty good about where we are.
Last week you said that maybe in another week or so you'd have pretty well a lineup formulated in your mind. How close are you to sort of piecing together
Yeah.
your starting 11 on each side, and what are your biggest question marks remaining?
I think we pretty much know who's going to start game one in just about all those 22 spots, and we got a pretty good idea now on teams as well. The first 3 or 4 games a year, the team stuff kind of works itself out with the 2 deep. I think probably the biggest question is who are those next guys, those 1As or those 1Bs or those 2s that are going to play, even if someone doesn't get hurt. Like, who has earned the right to be in the rotation on both sides of the ball? And I think we have a good idea, but we'll sit down as a staff. As we start Tuesday, we'll kind of have it how we're going to go game one. We'll have a pretty good idea, and we'll start to turn our attention to Louisiana Tech.
Obviously, as a coach, you probably are never satisfied or think everything's perfect, but did you get out of fall camp really what you felt like you needed to get out of fall camp?
I think so, yeah. The moment that you're satisfied as a coach is usually the moment you're pretty vulnerable. So, but I do think we had a good camp. 15 days, we were physical. I think we're in the process we're on. I think we're in a good place. You never really know till that first game how guys are going to react. We got a lot of new faces. I like them. I feel good about them. I like where our team is from a unity standpoint, offense, defense, everybody's together. But we haven't faced a lot of adversity yet, and we haven't played that first game when the lights are on, and well, in this case, when the heat is on, and like, how are we going to respond? How are we going to react to being down, or when a call doesn't go our way, or a guy gets hurt? Like, just all those things. Game ones are always an event. I mean, it's just who adjusts, who makes the adjustments, who can settle in. Usually comes out on top. So we'll learn a lot about ourselves in week one.
A bunch of those newcomers arrived in time for spring ball. Have any of them jumped out at you as having taken a significant leap from spring to the first 15 days?
When you say
camp?
newcomers, you mean transfers and
Transfers,
freshmen?
and you had a handful of freshmen.
Yeah, I'm going to leave somebody out, unfortunately, but defensively, I think both our transfer corners, from Chris Megason and Charles Woods, have been really good. I think C.J. Sanders has been really good. I think our linebackers are starting to really settle in. Kobe Wilson just got here in fall camp, but I think him and Ahmad, who was here, are settling in. I like the defensive line. I think Cam Robertson's really, the first week, he was probably way behind, and this last week and a half, I mean, he has just skyrocketed. He's a tough, really good football player. He's going to be really good for us this year. I think on offense, you see some of the receivers, that have repped. Keyshawn Smith, Romello starting to turn the corner a little bit. And I think up front, Logan Parr, same thing, kind of as Cam Robertson. The first week was just kind of getting his feet under him, but this last week and a half, he's really come on and shown that there's a reason he's played in games before. And so I think that's just to name a few that have kind of and L.J. Johnson to me stands out as just a really steady running back.
Last year at this time, I think you had Bo hurt, Jake Bailey, Massey had his injury. Yep. Is some of that changing what you did? Is some of that changing the strength and conditioning? Is some of that just not having the bad luck? Is there any way to attribute that to any one thing that it seems like you really...
Yeah. We didn't change a whole lot of what we did. I mean, I think year 2 in Grizz's system, a lot of guys got a full off season. So there's some of that. I think some of it's luck. If you're going to be physical, injuries are part of it. There's a thought that, I've never lost a game for being too physical and losing a few guys to injuries early in the season, but I have lost because we haven't hit and banged and we've been not physical enough, and so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think one of the things that's really helped us is 2 things. One, we redid our practice field, and thanks to our administration for that, because now we have 2 practice fields in the grass field, and we don't have to go inside and do live stuff as much. Jake Bailey and Bo Corrales got hurt in the indoor last year, and Massey got hurt on the turf game field, and it's common. I mean, it's medical doctors will tell you get hurt more on turf fields than you do on grass fields. So obviously we have to play on turf, but to be able to practice on grass the way we are, that's big. And I think too, our guys have learned how to compete with each other. Physical, intense, but take care of each other. And we're not there yet, but we've done a better job of that. And so we haven't had as many guys banged up just because unintentionally we're not maybe mature enough to practice the right way.
With that, obviously you don't want full-on fist fights, punches thrown, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But do you kind of like that there's a little bit of that edge to them, that there's been a couple times where you got to pull some guys and say, you are on the same team, Do you?
Yeah,
Kind of in the
I'm
back
from
of your mind like that a little
Arkansas,
bit?
and we just say we'd rather say whoa than sick 'em, you know. And so like, what I do like is that there is an edge. You know, now we've had to teach them you can't swing because if you swing and miss, they'll still eject you, or go back on film the next week. So we've got to go right up to that line, to that edge of being as physical and hard-nosed and intimidating and playing with that edge as we can on both sides of the ball, and understand that when we cross the line and it hurts the team, that's the line. And we, you know, at times have gone over that line in fall camp, but I think we're in a good place now where our guys understand the edge of that line, and that's where we want to play at.
You might not, but Jalen looked like he got knocked today. Was that just like a stinger?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've already been told he's going to be okay. He just kind of hit the ground hard, and I don't even think it was a stinger. I think there's no concerns. I don't even expect, as of now, I don't expect him to not be out there full go Tuesday, which is good.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, sorry.
What do you got?